Hi everyone, welcome to my ranking of the MCU films. So yes, we are back once again, this time around ready to discuss the MCU on the channel. So today we'll be ranking all 34 current MCU films from least favourite to favourites, and just seen Deadpool and Wolverine yesterday, and I thought it'd be a great time to kind of do this, kind of rank the MCU films, so we can talk about this in the comments, so you can share your opinions, and we have a kind of a change at the moment, in the MCU. We don't have any more MCU films this year, so I thought it'd be a perfect place to finally do, my ranking, personal ranking, of course, of all the MCU films currently, and yes, we will be spoiler warning, of course, for this video. If you haven't seen some of these films, I would say proceed with caution because I will be getting into the spoilers territory here, and we'll be kind of discussing some plot details. So if you haven't seen the current MCU films, I would definitely say just be warned because there will be spoilers in this video. So with all that said, let's discuss my thoughts and give my personal ranking of this franchise. So yes, we'll get straight into it. 34 films to rank, so quite a lot today. And at number 34, my very least favourite MCU film, the bottom of the barrel, is a film I saw 2 days ago now, and just watching this before Deadpool and Wolverine, and I didn't see the show leading up to this. I didn't have any interest in that, wasn't going to waste my time, so I looked at a very quick recap, and that didn't help me at all because the plot was still very confusing, and I wasn't invested in this. And that is The Marvels. This film, what can I say, really bottom of the barrel. I thought this was boring, irritating, didn't like the characters. This was so short for an MCU film, but it felt really, really long, and I just thought the plot, all the villains, the main villain of this film I hated, just absolutely awful, and she was very annoying, the faces she was pulling, just everything that's going on with the characters, just this team up could have been enjoyable, but Miss Marvel in this film was very, very irritating for me, and I just thought, other than Goose, a couple of charming moments with Goose, of course, and Samuel Jackson as well, and just a couple of other side characters. A couple of moments here and there, I thought this was a write-off really, and I did not like this one at all. It was one of the few MCUs to not break even, of course, and it was not, a popular film, and I saw this and I was going to give it a go, but I really did not like this one, and it was just, as I say, irritating, boring, and wasn't invested in the characters really at all, and the plot to this film and the villain was the absolute worst of the MCU, and yeah, I just did not like this film at all, other than a couple of cute moments here and there. A real low point for the MCU, and hopefully, I don't see any more going forward in the the current phase and later phases that's worse than this, because I really don't want to feel this way again with an MCU film. It was a real slog to get through. So yes, that was my least favourite at number 34, The Marvels. And next up at number 33, this is a film I really wanted to like, and I think the first 10-15 minutes was really good. It was very powerful, and I thought after that it just went downhill, and it was a very long film for an MCU, one of the longest, and it did also feel the length, and that is of course Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So as you'll see, as we go up the list, the first Black Panther film I'm a really big fan of, definitely, and I think this was even more disappointing for that fact. I just did not like this film. I think the tribute to Chadwick Boseman was really nice. That's the part I enjoyed, as I say, the beginning 10-15 minutes, and the kind of aftermath of that. Some of the interactions I did like. Some of the action here and there as well throughout, it was pretty good, and some visual moments that are to praise. But overall, this film, the visuals become very dull after a while, and I think the main plot of this, after the tribute, again, very, very uninteresting. Didn't like the villain at all. I just thought this was a real slog. I was very, very bored of this film. I think the CGI is probably some of the worst in the MCU, unfortunately. And I just think, it just seems like the plot was very stretched thin, and this villain and what's going on there, and just where the characters that we see from the first film are kind of put into this film. I didn't enjoy this, and it just became very, very drawn out. The environments, and just the worlds in this one I wasn't interested in really, and it was just, the script was lacking so much, and there was just so much charm lacking as well. It felt rushed at times, and other times very drawn out, and I just wasn't invested, in this plot and this whole stuff with what's going on with the villain, and just towards the end of the film, the action there wasn't very good at all. It's quite baffling actually, and yeah, it became laughable in the end. So I couldn't really get behind a lot of the stuff that was going on. So there we go. At number 33, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. At number 32, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. A real disappointment. I think this film, once we get past that first the intro piece into the main bulk of the film, it became worse and worse. Just very, very dull. What they've done with MODOK in this film was absolutely atrocious, pathetic and absolutely laughable. Not even laughable; it was beyond that. I thought, what was going on? What were we meant to think? At times, in this film, the tone was all over the place, and it was just very, very dull. Once again, the CGI, it was harder to notice at times. How baffling it was, but where it was easy to see. It was just again very underwhelming, and it just feels like this one was kind of an afterthought. Just kind of there to kind of make another Ant-Man film. I wasn't invested, in the characters and what they were doing in this film. Paul Rudd was good to see, obviously, and when he's allowed to, he's given some charming moments, but it's just not enough for me, and I think it's above the previous two because it's not as much of a slog to get through, and there are more moments to kind of go, oh yeah, that was okay, appreciate, but I think this one still, once again, I didn't like this film, and it's a dislike from me. Really, really underwhelming film, and just once again a real tedium, a kind of drawn-out film with all the kind of characters that are introduced and the plot elements that I wasn't invested in really at all. So there we go, at number 32, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So number 31, we have The Incredible Hulk. Now this is a film that I do like. So the first one on the ranking that I do actually like in some way, and I think it's okay. This one, it's not a film I'm big on. It's kind of just a generic action film, superhero film that happens to be in the MCU. It doesn't really feel like an MCU film, at all, really. And I think Edward Norton is really good in the role. I think recasting, of course, trying to set this up, and we have, of course, Tim Roth. In the Abomination fight, in the final act, I did enjoy. Again, it's more of just I enjoy this as an action film at times. As a kind of a superhero film at times, but it's more just generic, kind of bare bones. It's okay. It's nothing to really run home about, and I think just some of the character interactions and stuff, it's very dull, very bland. It is quite a bland film overall, with some highlights here and there, and overall, I think it's okay. Not much to say here. Saw it when I was very young, and I have some good memories of this, but it's just not one that I'm huge on personally. But it's definitely better than the previous three, and I do like this film and appreciate aspects of this. So yes, that was at number 31, and at number 30 we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This could have been so much better. Sam Raimi directing. Personally, for me, this is just very underwhelming. I think it has some really interesting aspects. Of course, and I think Benedict Cumberbatch once again, is great in the role. But just so much of this is very, very messy. That's the thing. The tone, yes, at times is messy, but it's more just the structure of the film, what's going on. Of course, being a multiverse film, it seems like they can kind of they feel like they can get away with films being messy and random and all over the place just because it is that kind of nature. But it doesn't really work at times for me, this film, because it's just too random and I can't really get invested at times fully, and it just jumps around the place. And it is also quite dull once again. Visually, I really wanted to, I thought this film would be better than it was, and I think just in terms of the plot as well, it was quite dull at times, and what they were doing with Scarlet Witch in this film, once again, just wasn't a fan of this. The whole direction they've took with her in the MCU recently, I'm just not big on at all, and it was very frustrating in the character working for me at times. So yes, that's just my personal opinion. Number 30, we have, yes, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So at number 29, we have a film that is very, very disappointing. Once again, as a sequel to such a great film, and that is, of course, Iron Man 2. Now this one, again, it has so much underwhelming moments in this. It just could have been, so much better. But I do enjoy this overall. I think, once again, Tony Stark being back in this film, of course, Robert Downey Jr., is so great in the role, and it just elevates the film. Of course, the interactions between him and Pepper Potts as well, Gwyneth Paltrow, it's really nice to see. I think Sam Rockwell in this film, and we've got Mickey Rourke as well. A mixed bag. I think they are enjoyable at times. It's not awful, but it isn't as good as it could have been. And there are a couple of moments that I'm not big on with the villains in this film as well. And just overall, the plot, the narrative is just once again pretty dull in compared to what it could have been. And just some of the action as well is quite cheap. It just feels like an afterthought. And not much to say here. It's an okay film. It's better than some of them, but it doesn't stand out really to me. And some of it is quite forgettable, personally for me, compared to other MCU films. So yes. Then we have at number 28, Captain Marvel. Now this is a film that I do like. It's better than I thought it would be when going in seeing this originally. Brie Larson is for me very good in the role. I really like her. That's one of the best things about this, and obviously Samuel L. Jackson as well. And just seeing this kind of callback film, it's very nice to see this, and it has some stylistic moments. The first act for me was a no-go though. I wasn't invested. It was a real mess. But once the film got going, it really picked up, and there are some good moments of action in this film. Overall, once again, it is kind of dull and it's just kind of basic. It's just not one that really stands out to me, and there are some things, as I say, that I don't like. The first act being, a real misfire for me, but once it gets going, it picks up, as I say, and it's just overall it kind of balances out to an okay film that I do enjoy. Somewhat enjoy some of the characters, obviously, and performances and stylistic moments. I didn't like the origins though of Nick Fury and his eye, obviously with Goose. That was just really it made the kind of epic backstory cheapened. Although I do love Goose, it's just I don't like that kind of reveal there. So there we go. But yes, that was at number 28, Captain Marvel. Next up we have Thor: Love and Thunder. So this is a film that I do enjoy. Once again, Taika Waititi directing this film, and I think going back to when I first heard about this, the announcement, after Thor Ragnarok, and after seeing that film, loving it, rewatching it, loving it even more. I think I was very, very hyped for this film. I thought, wow, this is going to be great, and I think it was a real disappointment. Although I do like this one, and it's definitely a jump up from the previous ones I've been talking about. Somewhat very underwhelming because I wanted to love this film, and I thought it was in the end pretty okay. Once again, a higher okay, average kind of rating, but just dull. One of the things about this is the tone. The comedy mostly, it's very cringy. It doesn't work at times. The goats, what was all that about? It's really pathetic, and just at times some of the dialogue and what's going on with the characters, the whole tone of this, it's really, really off. Some cringy moments. Wasn't sure what was going on in this film. It feels like it's just a mess around at times. It wasn't really something I could fully take seriously when it needed to be. Christian Bale was in this film. I thought he could have been given more to do in this film, really, considering how it started off. I was really behind it, and it just kind of he became very sidelined, really. And Natalie Portman in this film, I appreciated what it was doing at first, and then again that was kind of put to the side, and really I can't remember where we were going at times. It was just very much going off, messing around, but we do have some really good performances, and I think sequences in this film that are fun, and they are it's seeing Chris Hemsworth again in the role was very nice. I think there are some really good aspects to this film visually, but I think just overall it is underwhelming, and I do like this film, but it's just it could have been so much more, and certainly a step down from Ragnarok in my opinion. So yes. Next up we have another disappointing sequel for me, and this is a film when I first saw it. I probably liked it a little bit more than on the rewatches because and that's really the only one in the MCU, and it rarely happens with me with any films. But I just think it has kind of become a film that I'm just more disappointed in, and more underwhelmed by when rewatching, and that is of course Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now this is a one that I do really like at times, but I think it just feels like a TV film really for me. The action is very underwhelming compared to the Avengers, obviously, and I just think what they're doing with some of the characters was cool, but it's just kind of again TV aspects, the way it's done. I just think Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, the way they're introduced, I wasn't big on, and I think that Scarlet Witch is way better as we go through the MCU films, and some really good performances. Wasn't big on the villain really though, and just a lot of the sequences in this film are very dull at times, and I think just every time I see this, it becomes more. Well, it was just on the second rewatch really, it became more of a slog to get through, and I've seen it around 3 or 4 times now, and it's a film that I always get reminded of how amazing the first one is for me, and this one could have been so much more, and it feels like it's less scale for the MCU, and certainly for the Avengers films, it's easily the worst for me, and it's an okay film or a good film maybe, this one, but it could have been so much more, and the characters are all here, but it's just they're not really the magic. The first is very much missing, and there could have been more comedy and charm interjected in this one, and it just becomes a bit of a dull film at times. So number 25, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So this is the one that I do like. This is a solid film. Some really enjoyable moments in this one. Seeing Rocket again, all these characters. It's really great to see them again, but it just feels like then it's not their high points at all. I think this one going in to see it, I was very hyped. A lot of hearing this, the MCU was back, and all this, and I think based on my hype, going to see it, it's definitely worse, way worse than I could have. I even thought if this is just kind of a 4-star film, I'll be more than happy with, even though I expected more, originally, and I thought considering the MCU at this point, I thought a 4-star film would be I'd be satisfied with that, and it wasn't that kind of thing for me. It was 3.5-star film, good solid film, but a lot of this is dull at times, even the action. And just some of the side characters in this, the villains, once again, just very underwhelming for me, and just some of the interactions from the characters we love and know. What's going on even with Chris Pratt, Peter Quill, of course, Star-Lord. It just it doesn't feel like it's really that thought out, and I just at times was really kind of thinking this is very disappointing. Although I was enjoying the film and there's some good action, some adventurous moments, and obviously seeing the characters at times, interactions, some of the comedy, is really nice to see, and it's funny, but it's just more of a solid, good film that I expected more from, really, and hearing about the MCU's back and all this, and the Volume 3 is perhaps it's up there with is 1 and 2, and I didn't expect it to be, but it just. Even then, it was just a bit underwhelming for me personally. So number 24, we have Black Widow. Now this is the one that I did enjoy quite a bit. It's definitely a solid film, once again. There are some underwhelming aspects. I think the final act, is a definite letdown. Again, villains, not too great, despite, the great cast. And Scarlett Johansson, a massive fan of. And in this film, she is really good. And I just, Florence Pugh as well, and all these different characters, that are shown in this film, I do really like. It's just some of the plots once again, and some of the way the film kind of a certain direction it goes in, it just feels very generic. The final act really was the thing that let it down, and I think just there are moments of this film that kind of they just feel like they're kind of tacked on in that sense, and there are some really nice moments with the characters, but it seems like the plot around this is just kind of it's not truly thought out, and it's not that investing at times. So yes. Black Widow at number 24. And so at number 23, we have the latest film in the MCU, and that's, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, this one I saw yesterday, and of course, at the cinema, and, I had a nice time seeing this. It was cool to see, obviously, Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds teaming up in this one, and, some really cool references. Definitely, that was one of the best aspects of this film, and obviously, some of the action and all this. It was a really cool film to see, and I think the best film definitely since No Way Home in the MCU. That's not saying loads for me, but it is definitely a step up, and hopefully, this is a direction we can take. I'm not really too sure consistently, but I'll take this one, and some really good performances in this one. I liked seeing different characters show up, played by Channing Tatum as well, it's really cool, and obviously Wesley Snipes in this film. Some really, really cool moments in this, and I think some of the action was really good. The first, kind of intro sequence, that was great, and I think the credits really, really funny and really epic. Probably the best action scene in the film. The rest of it could have been better. We have a kind of one in the final act, was definitely a step up as well. One of the main things that lets this film down, though, is the actual plot. I was very confused by this personally. It's very convoluted, I found, and the whole multiverse aspect of this. Yeah, once again, it just they can say that and just kind of it's not really coherent for me, and it's all over the place at times, and I was very baffled by certain characters and why and which was going on here, and it was a bit all over the place. Also, on their own, Deadpool and Wolverine, really good performances, very enjoyable moments, but I think with Wolverine in this film, a bit too angry for me. Hugh Jackman is great in this film, he's giving his all, but what they were doing with the character is just a bit too angry. He's really, really aggressive in this film, and that kind of took away from, the kind of team up, the interactions between him and Deadpool. It just wasn't as funny or as charming or as enjoyable as I really, really wanted it to be, and hearing this for ages, and I wanted to see this, it just wasn't quite the kind of living up to the hype in that sense. I think it was very, very little times where Logan Wolverine was actually kind of happy at all in this film. It's just a choice that I think hindered the actual enjoyability of this kind of team up, the buddying up, and seeing as well Wolverine's interactions with different characters, not just Deadpool. It kind of it stopped the film from really reaching its potential, and also the plot as well. One of the main things as well, very convoluted. Villain once again, one of the very worst of the MCU, unfortunately. But you've got so much going on stylistically, and it is seeing the team up. It is still enjoyable, and it is an enjoyable film. I think it has some really good moments, but it just isn't what it could have been. A good film, definitely a good solid film, better than quite a few of the MCUs, but just didn't quite live up to the hype for me personally. So yeah, number 23 that was Deadpool and Wolverine. So number 22 we have Iron Man 3. Now this is the one that I'm quite the fan of at times. I think Robert Downey Jr. is very good in this film once again. I think some really charming interactions, moments in this film. Action-wise, it's definitely better than Iron Man 2, of course. I think, and just the villain's better as well. I think at times, and when we get to the final act, things fall apart a bit. What's going on there with the Mandarin. I just thought that was a bit pathetic. Ben Kingsley, great actor, and what they gave him in this film was a bit too silly for my liking, and just some moments in the final act just isn't as good action wise, but it is a good solid film, and I do take this over quite a few of the kind of MCU's lower down on the ranking. And so number 21 we have a film that I really do like quite a bit, and this is probably going to be a surprise to many, because this is usually ranks near the bottom, if not at the bottom, at least until the recent MCUs, and that is of course For the Dark World. Now, this is a film that I didn't see this as it came out. So I saw it a bit after that, and I was hearing this is really bad and all this kind of stuff from quite a few people, and it just wasn't anywhere near as well received even as the first Thor film. But I saw this and I thought, wow, I just like it more than a lot of people. I didn't really find too much big issues with this film. It just it wasn't stand out at times, but I think there's a lot that I really, really enjoyed, actually. Some moments that I kind of loved. Chris Hemsworth, of course, and Tom Hiddleston in this film. I loved the kind of dynamic there, what they were doing with these two characters, and it's very complex, dynamic at times, and just very enjoyable. And just some of the lore in this film I really liked. The villain is not great, definitely one of the worst. I think Christopher Eccleston, is a great actor, but what he was given in this film just wasn't really up to par, and I think at times, some things that are underwhelming, but overall, I did enjoy this as a kind of fun ride. The music is just absolutely stunning, and I really enjoy the characters in this film and what's going on, and Darcy as well, and seeing, of course, Stellan Skarsgård in this film, his role in this was really, really good. So yeah, I did enjoy this one. I think it's definitely a very, very, very solid film actually for me, and definitely better than quite a few of the MCUs actually, personally, just for me. At number 20 we have Spider-Man Homecoming. So yes, Tom Holland in the role, his first kind of true Spider-Man film. Obviously he was in previous films in the MCU, Civil War obviously, and this is not an origin story, and it's a very unique film in that sense. What it is, you can't really pinpoint. It's just a very unique film in the MCU, and kind of the ideas, the concept of this, and it's just a very pleasant film to see. It's a very charming one. It has funny moments. I think the action at times is quite good. It's definitely not great overall. The action, I think Vulture as well. Is a very interesting villain. What's going on around him though? With all his henchmen and all this, and the actual plot really lets it down and doesn't allow that villain to be truly to truly shine and to really be come into his own. But I think the character working, what's going on with Liz, etc., and all this, is very, very well done, and I just enjoy the kind of high school life at times. I think some cringy moments. The comedy at times does not work. It's a very, very modern film in some ways. The trends and all this that's going on in it. I think, and just some of the comedy definitely it kind of highlights that. But overall, it's a good film. The final act also lets the film down a bit as well. That final action set piece with Vulture, is very, very messy and just hard to look at. But overall, it's a solid film. I don't love this film. It doesn't reach emotional heights that other Spider-Man films have, and even just in the MCU films. So yes, it just is a good film, and I wouldn't put it higher than this, but it's definitely better than, as I say, quite a few of the MCU films. And so number 19 we have Doctor Strange. So this is a really interesting origin story. I think this is one that has definitely gotten better on rewatches. The first time I saw it, I think I thought it was average, and then I thought it was good, and now I think it's probably very good. So it's definitely one that has climbed in my explanations. I think seeing the first act, it's very different to after that 45-minute mark or so, and I think just that kind of transition, that originally I was a bit tough on. I thought it was just the first act that was really good, and the rest of the film fell apart. And then gradually I have kind of come to really like most of the rest of the film. Again, the final act lets it down, and stuff with the villains. Not too great, but really, this is a very nice film. It kind of taps into the spirituality, and I just really enjoy the concepts. Tilda Swinton, Chiwetel Ejiofor as well, really good in this film. And I just really, I think Benedict Cumberbatch in the role is great, and it's a really interesting origin story. I think some of the visuals to this film very, very creative, and just really enjoyable to see. So yes, number 19, that was Doctor Strange. Now number 18, again, a one that I would put higher than a lot of people, and that is of course Thor, the original. Now this is a one that I really enjoy. I've always really enjoyed this. It's kind of campy fun. The fantasy elements of this, it's not for everyone, of course, but I just personally really enjoy this, and it's a very silly film at times, but I do like that aspect of it, and I just find it very investing for the most part. I think there are some things that let it down, and some cringy moments here and there, but I do really enjoy this. Natalie Portman as well, and the romance, I do enjoy it, and just very warm film, a nice, innocent film to watch, and I think, yes, Thor in this film, it got way better, as the MCU went on, but for what it was, what they gave, Chris Hemsworth in this film, it was definitely very good, and I do enjoy Tom Hiddleston in this film as well, Anthony Hopkins, just a really great cast, and Kenneth Branagh, directs this film, very well for me. So yes, that was at number 18, the first Thor film. And at 17, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now this is a film that is a very good sequel. It really doesn't quite live up to the first Ant-Man film, as you will obviously know, it's higher on my ranking, but I think this film does some interesting stuff, and I think Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer in this film, very, very good. I think really, kind of interesting plots, concepts, and visually it's very good, and once again, it is like the first Ant-Man, very charming. I just really enjoy this film, in the action as well, once again, and there are some things that are, a bit, as we go through, in the second half, I'm kind of zoning in and out of it. It's not always fully investing like the first Ant-Man film was to me, but I do really enjoy this one, and I think for what it is, it's definitely one of the best, kind of follow-ups in the MCU. So yes, that was at number 17, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So at number 16, we have, a very, very good film, and it's one that I do think is very emotional, and it's very unique in the MCU, and that is, of course, Black Panther, the original, of course, and way better than Wakanda Forever. This is a very good film, as I say. I think visually at times, this is quite stunning, of course, to look at, and I just love seeing Chadwick Boseman in this film. He is legendary, and very spiritual moments, really warm moments that I kind of on rewatches, I've really appreciated more and more. Kind of subtle moments to this, and some things in this that aren't great. The CGI at times. And just some of the final act lets the film down, but I think, the villains in this film, of course, Michael B. Jordan in this film, he is great, and I just love some of the action in this, the locations, of course, seeing Wakanda, it's a magical place, and I think just the way they kind of revealed this world to us, there is a sense of wonder, and just different themes that are kind of incorporated into this, done very, very well, and I just love Chadwick Boseman in this film, of course, rest in peace, he was truly legendary, and this is the film that kind of really brought him into the MCU. Obviously, he was in Civil War, but seeing him in his own film with his own kind of world, this was just really, really nice to see. Again, the final act lets it down, and it's the CGI at times, different moments, could have been better for me, but I do really enjoy this film, and it's definitely better than a lot of the MCU films for me personally. So now cracking into the top 15, and these are all ones that I would give, kind of 4.5 stars to, at least as well, going forward, and I do, really love, or, kind of really, really like most of these films, and at number 15 we have Eternals. Now this is the one that is quite controversial, quite divisive. I watched this film, I've only seen it once, to be honest, I can't remember all of this film, looking back on it, it's a couple of years ago that I saw this, of course. But, I did really, really enjoy this one. There's some aspects that I loved about this kind of original team of characters that we hadn't seen in the MCU. Kit Harington was a, definite standout, in this film. Some of the final act let it down, but, I did enjoy the unique look of this film, and just seeing different characters in this, that's the thing, I really loved a lot of the characters in this and the interactions. It's warm, it's charming, it's quite funny, and it is, really epic for me as well. So that's just my opinion on Eternals. Not much to say there, just the one that I do really enjoy, and loved elements of this. So number 14, we have a one that I will be honest, this is probably one that I've changed my mind about, the most in some regards over the rewatches. I saw this in the cinema. I didn't really think I liked this film. I was very disappointed in it, and I wasn't sure how to feel about a lot of the stuff that happened in this film. And that is, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, this is the one that I do now love, actually, for the most part. And I just think, it's very interesting. I've seen it probably about 4 times now, and just every time I see it, it gets better and better. And, I really like the comedy now. At first, I was not big on the comedy. It was just a bit too much for me, perhaps, and what they were doing with the characters, I thought they're just amping them up too much, and it's just too silly and also dull. I thought, with the plot and the villain. Kurt Russell still, as the father of, Peter Quill, I think it's still a bit underwhelming for what it could have been. Kurt Russell is a great actor, but I think in this film it's a bit strange with what's going on. Sometimes it makes sense as we get reveals given to us, but I still think it could have been better, and some of the final act is a bit messy for me. But overall, I really love the characters again in this film, the comedy, the visuals to this film are stunning, absolutely amazing. The use of music, once again, it is unique, like the first, in the kind of, the mixed tape effect that it has, going through the film, the score, but also, the songs that are introduced into this film. And I really do love aspects of this film, and overall, it's the one that, I do have a lot to praise about, and I do, really hold this in quite high regard, personally. So yes, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And next up we have Shang-Chi. Now this is a one, number 13, that I loved. I came out seeing this, I saw it at home actually, but after seeing this I thought, that was great, and definitely some things that could have been better here and there, but I think at times this was really stunning, and I think, just the performances, and particularly as well, Tony Leung, as the villain, really loved this villain, and a couple of moments in the comedy just here and there that was really bad, but most of the comedy did work, and it was a film that I could take seriously as well, because we have the Hotel California moment earlier on in the film that I was not big on at all, but yes, other than that, really, I liked the comedy, and I thought I was very invested in this kind of origin story. The bus scene, I absolutely loved, and just the performances, the characters, and this world and narrative mostly, I did really love, and seeing this kind of unique, film visually as well, and in the concepts and the setting and location, I really did appreciate. So number 12, we have Ant-Man, the original, of course. This is a film that I do absolutely love, and I first saw this, I thought, wow, this is, I do really like this one, and seeing it again, it's just like, I reminded of how much I love this, and I just love the villain personally. I love Michael Pena, all the side characters, the way it's told, the kind of the funny, kind of way he's telling, the heist and all this. It's just great stuff. Paul Rudd is absolutely legendary in this role. Love the family aspect at times as well. Some of the stuff could have been, better. It's a bit off. And I think some of the things, with the family, I guess, and what's being said to Paul Rudd, it's not done perfectly. But his relationship with his daughter, just the way that's done, it's got a real emotional core. Also being a very light film at times, yet very investing still. So it's got a really nice balance. Visually, it's very creative. The action, I loved really throughout, and this hasn't really got an act that lets it down. So definitely one of the best MCU films for me personally, and that is the first Ant-Man. So number 11, just not quite cracking into the top 10, we have Spider-Man No Way Home. Now this is, at times quite a legendary film. There are some things that let it down, but overall, really stunning film. Loved, I saw this at cinema. I loved seeing, of course, all 3 Spider-Men, particularly in this film, Andrew Garfield as well. And of course, Tobey Maguire, seeing Tobey Maguire once again, in a Spider-Man film. Wow, I'd waited, since I was a kid to see this again. I saw Spider-Man 3 in the cinema, and that was the last one, of course, of Tobey Maguire. And all these years later, seeing them team up, these 3, it was great. The chemistry was perfect. It really was. And I just thought, this could have been better. The kind of chemistry between the characters, the camaraderie, and the comedy there. It's just so great. And as well, seeing all these different villains from other films, Doc Ock, Green Goblin. Wow. At times, some things, nitpicking, not quite, kind of authentic, but for what it was, I thought they'd done a great job. The worst thing about this film is the final act in terms of the outcome, kind of erasing, for now at least, this currently as well, years on, the kind of relationships and everything that's been built up with Peter Parker and all his friends and all this kind of stuff. I just thought, what was the point really in that? And, of course, some people like that. I hated that ending personally, and it really left a sour taste in my mouth and undone some of the enjoyment of the final act. And just, it was a very depressing note to end on. I wasn't big on that, but the rest of the film, for the most part, I did love, and I was very invested in this, and some real legendary moments and sequences in this film. So yes, not quite in the top 10, but definitely one of the best MCU films for me. So now we get into the top 10, and all these films I absolutely love. And at number 10 we have Captain America: The First Avenger. Now this, to me personally, is a legendary origin story. Bucky in this film, and of course Captain America, Steve Rogers. That is one of the best aspects of this film. Of course, just of this chemistry, this kind of complex kind of friendship, and as we go throughout the film, it's just a tragedy, of course. Seeing the later films as well in the franchise, the way that kind of turns out, and what we learn about Bucky as well. It makes this film even better, I feel, and it's one of those rare films that does it kind of has that effect on this one. Kind of the later films, it adds that kind of complexity to it, and just seeing this film though, I've seen it quite a few times, and it just gets better and better. I love, of course, Tommy Lee Jones as well. Obviously, Chris Evans is so great in this film. I love the music, the kind of World War II setting, and just seeing kind of just different aspects of the romance as well. I love performances from Hayley Atwell, Hugo Weaving as well as Red Skull. Absolutely loved, and I think just it's so epic. That moment with Red Skull, and the bridge, just the flames and all this. It's just wow, so great. This film. Every time I see it, it's more emotional. It's a sort of fun film. It's really light at times, but thoroughly investing. I love the the origins of Steve Rogers, Captain America, and it's just from start to finish. I feel personally a film that is just so great. It's not quite perfect, but it's really, I have very little flaws with this film. It just is such a great film, and absolutely love this one. So yes, that was at number 10, and at number 9 we have the original Iron Man. Now this film, what can I say? Absolutely love this film. Robert Downey Jr. Is masterful in this film. I think really of all the casting in the MCU, they've done. Of the original, the Avengers, of course, the team and all their films, I think they've really done a perfect job. But particularly with this casting of, as Tony Stark, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. This is truly monumental, and it's one of the best casting choices, in any superhero film. He is just full of charisma, charm, comedy. Everything he says in this film, and various MCU films, it's just it's legendary cinema, and what can I say? Elevates this film. Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts as well, is great, and just seeing as well, Happy played by Jon Favreau, of course, he also directed the film. This is a great film. At times it's lacking a little bit in the style, but it doesn't really hurt the film too much, and I think. Mostly, this film is masterful, and just a few things that bring the film down or aren't quite to that level. But this is such a great film, and I do give this a 5-star film, rating rounded, and I just love kind of this being the first MCU film. Obviously, everything hinged on this, really, and rested on this film's shoulders, and so glad they got it right. They really did. It's one of the best in the entire MCU for me, and every time I see it, it's a fun film. It's investing. It's got emotion. Romance. Just the technology and the way it's kind of portrayed in this and incorporated into the plot, and the villain as well. Just everything really in this film, and of course Robert Downey Jr. in the legendary casting here. As I say, it's just truly a stunning film, and one of the best in the MCU for me personally. And so at number 8 we have a very unexpected one as well. A lot of people would not put this as high, and it's just personally for me, I truly love this film, and that is of course Spider-Man: Far From Home. Now this is one that was way better than I was expecting. They got everything right that I wanted, everything I wanted from Homecoming. They put into this film. The trip, road trip feel of this was so great, and just such a charming film. Mysterio as well, as Jake Gyllenhaal playing this character, absolutely loved. Personally, I thought the final act was epic. Visually, this film is one of the best actually at times in the MCU. Really loved the look of this, the feel of it, just so charming, so funny, and just the emotion, the stakes were so much higher for me. I just found this to be masterfully directed at times. Some things, a couple of things here and there that aren't perfect, but really, this is my personal favourite, of the three Spider-Man MCU films. So that's just my opinion. Far From Home at number 8. So yes, at number 7 we have Thor Ragnarok. Now, an absolutely legendary film in the MCU. First time seeing this, I thought it was great. Second time onwards, I thought this is actually a masterpiece for me. I really, really love this film, and just the soundtrack, the score, the look of it, the feel of it, the 80s kind of feel of this, and every single character, all the side characters, the villains even. Hela in this film, it's just so great. Kate Blanchett, of course, playing this character so well. Some of the CGI, some imperfections, but really doesn't let the film down, too much. And I think it is a masterpiece, and it's just one of my favourites in the MCU. They really got the character of Thor right in this one, and just perfected the character, the tone of this. The comedy. Chris Hemsworth is so great in this role, and all the characters. Hulk, seeing him, interact and talking in this film. There's so many things about this that I just truly love, and every time I see that, it's one of my favourite, kind of MCU films, and among my favourite, superhero films as well of all time. So yes, that was number 7 for Ragnarok. Truly a legendary film to me. So now we get into the top 6, and really all of these films are a step up actually from the previous ones, and really the ordering of this, it doesn't really matter too much of some of these ones, and I think, I love these ones so much, but at number 6 we have a film that doesn't quite make it into the top 5, but a film I think is a masterpiece, and it's just so great, and that is of course Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So this is the one that even from the first viewing, I thought, wow, this is one of the best MCUs. Stunning film, the plot, the thriller aspects of this, and the character working, what they've done with Steve Rogers, Captain America, of course, and Black Widow in this film, I absolutely loved. All the characters, the chemistry. Falcon in this film as well. Anthony Mackie playing perfectly playing the character, of course as well. Samuel Jackson, his role in this, it's just so investing, and of course. One of the best aspects is what they do with Bucky, of course, the Winter Soldier in this film. This is genius stuff. One of the best kind of narrative, threads, in the MCU, kind of arcs. Just everything, to do with this character. Just what's going on with the chemistry and the relationship between these two characters, former friends. Of course, the reveals in this film with the mask. Wow, so stunning, and just the highway sequence. What can I say? Stuff of legends throughout from start to finish. This really is for me pretty much perfect. I think it is, and it's just an absolute masterpiece. And it's a thriller, it's an action, it's an adventure film, and it's an MCU film for the lore and what they're doing with the characters. It's just absolutely stunning. It's this tragic, mythic film, but also highly, comedic, fun throughout, and it's just one of the best MCU films. What can I say? It just doesn't quite get into the top 5, because for me, when they're at the best, the MCU films are truly something else, and the emotions were just a bit more, kind of higher on the next 5. So at number 5, now we crack into it. I have to think what means the most to me. The magic, the charm of these films, and how these films move me, and they all moved me. Of course, they all had the charm, the magic, the sense of wonder, but there is just the personal ordering for me, and I have to order these films in some way from 5 to 1. And so at number 5 we have Avengers: Infinity War. So this is a one that I truly love. Monumental film. I think the way it starts, of course, Loki's death. They're very sad. Very tragic film. It really takes a very dark turn. In the final act is stuff of legends. I think that. Just before that, kind of final act really, when when Thor arrives in Wakanda, of course, and Groot and Rocket, that is one of the most epic moments in the MCU, and just seeing different characters again form up as well, and just seeing Bucky as well, kind of his involvement, everyone together really in this film, and just it's such an epic film. It's such a kind of well-made film as well. Masterfully directed by the Russos, and I think it took the MCU in a different direction. I think. While this is not, better than all the rest of the films before, I think it does. It kind of takes a different direction emotionally. The lore with Thanos, of course, and just seeing, his interactions, in this film with different characters, it's just wow. It really is something else. Josh Brolin in this film is absolutely stunning, and I think perfect once again casting, and I just think the effects, the visuals to this, the music by Alan Silvestri. Wow. It really is something else, and I think the way it ends as well. This tragic element, and it just gets you pumped for Endgame, of course. It was going to be coming out the year after, and there had a couple of films obviously in between that, but really it was all about Endgame for me and the hype for that, and you just seeing seeing Infinity War at the cinema, and I didn't actually see Endgame at the cinema, but I was so hyped to finally see Endgame after seeing this film, and it really, I was thinking what would happen next, and it really is something else. One of the best films in the MCU. It doesn't quite get into the top 3 kind of mark, but it is a number 5, and that for me represents an absolute masterpiece, and it really is something else. This film, from start to finish, what an experience this one is. At number 4 we have Captain America: Civil War. Now this one is truly something else. My favourite, personally, of the Captain America films. I think first time seeing this, it wasn't my favourite. I didn't have a great experience the first time round. Winter Soldier was my personal favourite then, but I think on rewatch, it really did climb above it. I think emotionally, of course, the airport sequence, but just the way in which the characters are explored in this one, and we have, of course, the feuding between different groups, within the Avengers. I think that was wonderfully done. Just in a character way, and it could have been perhaps done in a way that wasn't really to my liking, but when it kind of came into it, I was thinking, wow, this is really kind of human in the way it's happening, and I just loved this film for that, and just the action throughout. I think the characters, the kind of plot to this is much more investing than even the Winter Soldier, because it is more character is the plot, and it's about these characters and the kind of the backstories and where things are going, developments, and I think the villain was so great, and I just loved this film from start to finish. The action, the music as well, and it comes to a very rousing climax. In that final act there. Visually, it's stunning. It's not one of the best MCUs visually. I think in comparison, for example, to the Avengers, some of the earlier ones, it's not as bright, not as colourful. The contrast, I think it's just a bit more grey, but it's still better looking than loads of films that were coming out at that time, and it does look stunning. There is some visual moments that I really am in awe of. It is an awe-inspiring film, but it's just not quite. It does perhaps in comparison lack a bit of colour, to the film, but that's just a kind of a thing that isn't in comparison as good as some of them, but it is in its own right an absolute masterpiece, and one of my favourite superhero films of all time. So yes, absolutely stunning. That was at number 4. Now at number 3, 3 and 4 actually, though, it's been up and down over the years, but I really think over the last couple of years I thought at number 3, this one I do personally prefer, and I just think it is more magical, and it's just the one that from start to finish I'm just smiling at. It really is one of the most magical superhero films of all time. And at number 3 we do have The Avengers, the original classic. What can I say? This is actually, believe it or not, the first MCU film I saw. Didn't know if I'd like the MCU. Wasn't really knowing what it was about. Did I have to read the comics and all this kind of stuff to be invested in, know what's going on? But I saw The Avengers, and then after that, seeing all the different films in the MCU. But I saw this, and I thought, wow, first time viewing, absolutely loved it, and I fell in love with the MCU from this film, and seeing it over the years since, it is just one of the most magical films in the franchise, and the team up of all these characters, shivers. It gives me goosebumps, of course, seeing that, and just the soundtrack to this. But I think the tone of this and the way the characters are kind of, they are down at one point in the middle of the film, and then it's that kind of hope that comes through, the uplifting nature, and it just blows me away every time. It really moves me, and then it's just so inspiring and epic in that final act, of course, and it's just from start to finish an absolute masterpiece every time I see it. This is definitely one of the special films in the MCU, and I think it is a cut above Civil War. I came to realise that for me personally. It's just truly magical cinema. The way this film looks, and perhaps along with Guardians, it's probably the best colourful looking film in the MCU, and I think it's just what they were doing with this film, the way it's shot on film as well. It looks stunning, it sounds stunning, and it's an experience for me like no other. The team up, and it takes its time. Even though we've had other films where the characters are built up, it does take its time in the first act to kind of set things up for this film, and it's not just a mash-up, and it really is one of the best films in the MCU, and one of the best super films of all time. So yes, The top two, how would I order? Of course, Guardians and Avengers Endgame. Now, for me, when I first saw one of these films, I thought it wouldn't be topped, but then it was topped for me. And number two, we have one of my favourite films of all time, that is Guardians of the Galaxy, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, an absolute classic. Really, wow, what can I say? It's a very special film to me, very personal moments in this film, and also just, again, a team-up film where all these characters assemble, just like Avengers, but this one, when I first saw it, I knew, I preferred it, to the Avengers. It just, it's even more special, even more magical. I don't really know how they done this. This wasn't characters that I was aware of at all, really, when going in to see this. But wow, what they've done with this film. James Gunn directing this to perfection. It's just one of the best films ever made, actually, for me. Guardians of the Galaxy, it really is. It just, from start to finish, it's a magical ride. The music, every single track, the way it's used, the characters, it's just, it really puts me in a nice way. The team of these characters, it's just charming, it's funny, it's just innocence to it, like no other MCU, and I just think it is highly, highly emotional as well. It brings me to tears on numerous occasions, even in the first act, and I just think it is, it's kind of done like a musical at times, at different moments, and wow, what a film it is. Unique concepts and the execution. Wow, James Gunn, hats off, because this original Guardians of the Galaxy film is just one of the best MCU films, and easily one of my favourite films of all time. It's just an absolute magic piece of cinema. And I really didn't personally think this film would ever be topped for me. I just thought it would be impossible. When Endgame was coming out, and before seeing this, I thought, I can't wait to see it. But it just, Guardians of the Galaxy, perhaps it would never be topped. And of course, it was for me. And at number one, of course, we have Avengers Endgame. What can I say about this film? Absolutely monumental. This is, again, one of the best films ever made for me, personally. It's just, it does everything right, and then some. It's beyond perfection. I thought, when seeing this, how could this film top Guardians? But it really, I think, halfway through this film, I was thinking, wow, we may have a new number one spot, my ranking, and, I didn't actually change that, for a month after seeing it. I was just kind of mulling it over because I thought, the impossible has happened, but it did, and I just came to realise, yes, I have to admit, Avengers Endgame was my number one all along after seeing it, and I just think throughout this film we have so many moments that just go down in history, really, as some of the best superhero sequences, in cinema history, and I think, the portal sequence, wow, is one of the best sequences, in modern cinema. Everything leading up to that was perfect, and I just loved the time travel elements to this film. Is kind of in the vein of Back to the Future, where it's more jolly, kind of having fun with this, kind of treating it as, kind of a fun ride, kind of enjoying, kind of seeing different characters and different timelines, and interacting and stuff, and that was the right, direction to go in, and I think just, all the characters are in this film, the interactions, it's just it has so much going on for it. I think Thor in this film is very different, his physique and stuff like that, but, what they were doing with this film and the characters worked perfectly. I loved seeing the Guardians and, the Avengers as well, all together. It's just, wow, and I think, it had such an emotional core. Just, I think seeing, this film again very recently, it really is reminding me of how much I love this one. Everything until the final act, and the final act is even better than the first two acts, where we have, just this, kind of Herculean effort. It's just epic. It's, kind of Shakespearean, tragic, of course, Iron Man, wow, definitely brought me to tears, and I think Robert Downey Jr. is just perfect in this film. As well, the first act, when I first saw it, it was a very shocking moment in the first sort of 20 minutes, and I thought, wow, that's the way that the film is going in, the direction, and it just, wow, the ideas they had, the execution lived up to it, and then some. I think just all the characters in this film really at times are at their best for the most part. And I think, the final act, Portals especially. This film truly is one of the greatest masterpieces of the superhero genre. I think it's one of my very, very favourite, superhero films. Just a few that top it, but, it really is up there. And I think just the music as well, in this film. Alan Silvestri, this wasn't even, kind of nominated for the, kind of best score, I think, at the Oscars. And I don't really care about the Oscars too much, but that was just when it comes to scores, and something like this in Alan Silvestri, I thought that was a bit of a shame. It really was. But I think many people have kind of praised this so much, and it really is one of the best scores, in among them in cinema history, and certainly in modern cinema. I think this is just one of the very best. It wow, blows me away. Monumental score. Portals, main on end as well. All the tracks. Of course, the funeral of Iron Man, Tony Stark. This is one of the best moments in the franchise. That very patient. Seeing all of the characters' reactions there. A lot of franchises, films would not do that. Of course, just rush it, or it wouldn't be that much dedication. Kind of passion and commitment to showing all of the characters, and that can be said for this entire kind of first three phrases really, and especially this film. It's the passion. It's the whole kind of committing to the fans, and everyone that's been invested in this MCU franchise up to this point, and this is just something I don't think will ever be topped. It really is a human film. It's just it really reaches beyond the stars, and it perfects the execution of this, the concepts, and just I think the actual the way in which this is done. It really is monumental. It kind of exceeds the expectations by a lot, and the ambition of this film is matched by the execution, and I just think it's a really truly monumental film, and one of the most emotional films in the genre, and one of my favourite films of all time among them. So yes, Avengers Endgame at number one. What can I say? It had to be that. I just think seeing it, a few years ago now, obviously, first seeing it, I just thought really instantly, this is probably the one that I love the most, and it took a few weeks, so for me to fully come to terms with that, I guess, because of the attachment I had to Guardians. But in the end, Endgame was the number one spot. So yes, that's my ranking. That's my thoughts on the MCU, all 34 of them, and what do you think? It'd be really great to hear, in the comments, of course, your rankings. Perhaps, if you can't do a ranking of all of them yet, you can do a top 10, a top 5, whatever you want to do. Just rankings, of course, in the comments, and your opinions on the MCU. It'd be really great, and a pleasure as always to discuss. And yes, I look forward to doing more rankings, of course, stepping them up recently on the channel. It'd be great to do different superhero rankings as well as we go forward on the channel. We'll be doing that. And for now, though, the MCU, in recent years, it's kind of gone downhill for me, but I do think, when it was at its best, I truly was, in love with this franchise, and the first three phases in particular, of course, was just something else for me, and it means a lot to me. It's kind of ones that I, kind of have fond memories attached to seeing them, and of course, quite a few of these, as we've noted, are true, masterpieces for me, of cinema, not just kind of the best MCUs, but they are some of the best kind of action films, sci-fi, and just superhero films in general. So yes, so much to praise about this franchise, and when they're at their best, one of my favourites really. And yes, Endgame, of course, number one. What do you think? What's your number one? How do you rank these films and all things superheroes? It'd be great to discuss in the comments. And of course, more rankings to come on the channel, and I look forward to doing in the future, of course, what we'll be doing. Different superhero lists as well, not just the MCU, but other superhero lists and top 10s and such. So I look forward to doing that, and yeah, just all things superhero stuff, discussing in the comments. As I say, leave your thoughts, feel free to do that, and I look forward to all the future content, in that sense, coming on the channel. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.